I really want to thank you for coming out to talk about a tough topic on a tough night. Do you see what's going on out there, by the way? There's like oceans. Not on that side, on that side. Literally, I was driving here. I felt like it was Kriyat Yam Suf. Going on Sherman, there were lakes that I never knew existed. So it's an honor to be here tonight. And it's about a topic that is definitely one that is at times people find hard to talk about. But I hope tonight it won't be so hard. And I hope it'll be something that's we're able to clarify in a lot of ways. So thank you for coming. You hear people say it all the time. She wears skirts. She doesn't wear skirts. She covers her hair. She doesn't cover her hair. Why is this a category? You don't hear people say, she makes berachot. She doesn't make berachot. It's important, but it's not like how we categorize people. In our community today, and really all over the Jewish world, very often we categorize somebody by what they wear. Here's my second question. My second question is, aren't there many other important things too? Why do we make such a big deal about this? I think Kibud Av V'Chaim is also important. I think Lashon Hara is also important. I think having midot is also important. How you treat people is important. Not stealing is also important. Keeping Shabbat is also important. Why is this seem to be a category on its own? Everything else is important. Why do we talk about this topic, modesty, differently? And here's my next question, my third and final question. And I know they're all similar, but they're all to make a very clear and specific point. Why does it seem sometimes like people act like, if you're modest, you're good. And if you're not, there's something wrong. What do you mean if you're modest? You go, this nothing else matters? Well, maybe say, if I keep kosher, I'm good. Maybe make it if I pray every day, I'm good. Why is it that like it's almost like sometimes when you see people that are modest, there's a part of you that's annoyed? Because they act like as long as they're modest, they could do whatever they want. Is that really true? Does it work that way? So my question, in essence, all three questions are really basically one. Why is it when we talk about Torah and we talk about mitzvot and we talk about the different laws, we talk about everything similar, some are more important, some are less important, but somehow when we talk about modesty, we talk about it like it's a separate category. It's a separate story. It's how we define people. It's almost how we over-define people. It's almost like not fair how much we define people by their modesty. How come we talk about this in many ways more than we talk about other things? So before we answer the questions, I want to just say it simply, clearly, once, and then make it clear that I am not going to be pushing the levels at all. We know what modesty means. Modesty means dressing properly, a skirt that properly covers the knees, and a shirt that properly covers the collarbone and the elbows, and cover the hair. I know that there are many people in this room that already do it, and many people in this room that consider it so far away and so hard to do. I will not at any point in this speech be telling you which level you should be on. You may be able to do 5% of it, you may be able to do 10% of it, you may be able to do 100% of it. I am just going to talk about why it's something that every single Jewish girl and every single Jewish woman needs to think about. And then you decide between you and your parents, or you and your rabbi and your teacher, what you're ready to do today and what you need to wait till tomorrow and what needs to wait 5 years from now. That's up to you. I have tried my best to never judge anybody by this, and I hope I never do. It's your business. I'm not here to tell you, you must do this, or you must wear this, or you must not wear this, or you're terrible if you wear this. That's not my business. I just described to you what it looks like, and I'm going to try to explain the much bigger question that we all are bothered by. Why is it such a big deal? So let me first start with this little analogy. You know, there's a sport, it's called basketball. You heard of basketball? You heard of basketball? There's a lot of things that you do in order to play basketball. You dribble, you pass, you rebound, you block, you steal, you jump, you throw, you defend. All important things. But in the end of the day, your quality basketball player is defined by one thing: how well you can score. Rebounding is important. Passing is important. But the game is defined by your ability to score. That's how it works. Well, let me tell you how our religion works. There's a lot of things that are important. There are a lot of mitzvot that are important. But when it comes to a man, there's one thing that categorizes, is equated to scoring. And that is, for a man, it's learning Torah. Nothing replaces learning Torah. You could do other mitzvot, you could pray, you could do chesed. They're all important. Just like rebounding is important, and dribbling is important, and passing is important, and blocking is important. They're all important. But just like a basketball player, in essence, is defined by the ability to score, a man is defined by his willingness and his commitment to learn. That's how a man is defined. That's his scoring. If you're learning, you're scoring. If you're not learning, it doesn't make you a terrible person. You're just not scoring points. You might be a good defender, you might be a good rebounder, all wonderful things. But points are scored. The points of religion, the points of Judaism for a man is Torah learning. For a woman, the points is modesty. Yes, you pray, wonderful, you're a great passer. Yes, you have midot, wonderful, you're a great dribbler. These are really important to playing the game. Yes, you say berachot, beautiful, you're a great defender. These are all important things. You don't speak Lashon Hara, you're a great rebounder. These are really important things, do not get me wrong. But the points are scored. The woman is defined by her ability to be modest. So that still bothers me. So good. I kind of answered our questions, but I don't get why. Is this working, by the way? Yes? No? My voice is still strained. This is working? It's very low. Like this? Maybe like this? But I still don't understand why. If you tell me Torah learning is the key for a man and that's the points that are scored, I get it, because Torah learning is everything. Torah, all the mitzvot come from learning Torah. All of the knowledge comes from learning Torah. All of our wisdom comes from learning Torah. If there's no Torah learning, there's no religion. So I get it if you tell me that Torah learning is the key, is the heartbeat of a man. I understand if you tell me Torah learning is the scoring points in the basketball game. I get it, because Torah learning is everything. Without a Torah, there's no religion. With the Torah, there is the religion. Every single mitzvah, in order to be performed, has to be learned by someone. So it has to be learned, and it has to be taught, and it has to be spread, and it's the essence of what makes a man in our religion, is the studying of Torah. I fully get it. No explanation needed. But why would modesty have that status for a woman? Modesty is just like one thing. It's one item. I could do other items. Why would modesty be the item? By a man, Torah learning the item, I get it. But by a woman, modesty being the item, it's not even something she does, it's something that she makes sure not to do. Make sure you're not immodest. That's the whole story. Why is that so big? Why would you call that the scoring points in the game for a woman? This is the question we need to answer. Because once we understand this, then it's simple why a woman is categorized by her modesty. It's simple why modesty is spoken about in different ways than everything else is spoken about. It's simple why people sometimes act like that's the only thing that matters. Of course, it's not the only thing that matters. But it's simple why people act that way. But why? It's simple if this is the key. The question is, why is it the key? So this is what we're going to try and explain. You know, every morning when we wake up, we make a series of berachot. And we make berachot like Hashem opens our eyes, Hashem Rukar Etz Alamayim, Matir Asurim, He unties us, He stands us up. And men make a beracha that I'm not sure you're aware of. I'm sure you are. Not sure why you're not insulted by, but we make a beracha every day. Thank you, Hashem, for making me, not you. Shelo asani isha. That Hashem made men, not a woman. And women make a beracha every morning. She'asani kirsono. I don't like this mic. She'asani kirsono. Women make a beracha every morning that Hashem, you made me like your will. For years I used to think that this beracha is pretty much insulting to women. The beracha is basically saying, listen, I'm a woman, I didn't get lucky enough to be a man, so you made me like your will. Like it is what it is. Okay, Hashem, at least you made me. This is your will. Hazaton, you were made in Hashem's will. Rabbi, what's wrong with the camera? What keeps happening? Is it okay or not okay? I'm talking to you. I get confused when you keep coming in and out. I can't do it. Everyone here knows me well. I can't. Okay. Is a beracha, what does Sha'asani Kesono mean? The answer is this. If you were to look at the top 5 temptations in the world, they're all relevant to men way more than they are for women. If you were to take alcohol consumption, it's way more by men than by women. If you were to take gambling, way more. How many women do you know gamble real money? There's tons of men, very few women. If you were to take drugs, tons of men in America take drugs, very few women. If you were to talk about people seeing inappropriate images, it's all over the place by men, very few women. And finally, if you talk about the desire to make money and make money and make money, it's way more by men than it is by women. Women are better at spending it. Men have this crazy temptation for alcohol, for drugs, for gambling, to see inappropriate things and to make more and more and more money. The reason is because Hashem created men, in essence, Hashem created men crazy. That's the truth. Men have a crazy head. Men's brains are all over the place and have a million temptations. And it's because of this that men have a responsibility throughout their life to try and change that brain. To try and learn and grow and change that brain. Women are created different. Women are born pure. From when a woman is born, she's pure. A woman is born with a holiness and a purity. They're not tempted by drugs, they're not tempted by alcohol, or by gambling, or by seeing crazy things, or by running after making money. They're not tempted that way. Because a woman is created pure. I love using this example. I've used it a lot of times. I used to be involved in a school that had boys in it and there was girls in it. And mincha was a very unique experience. If you ever went to the boys' mincha would be, a boy would pray for like 1.5 minutes. He'd be looking this way, be looking that way. Sometimes you felt like he wanted to talk to his friend. He'd be do everything to be distracted while he was praying mincha. And then you'd see a girl pray. The girl's not some different girl from a different country. She's his sister. And the girls would pray mincha with a siddur in their face. There were many siddurim in the school that have lipstick by Shema Kolenu. And I'd be like, how could this be? They both come from the same house. They have the same mother, the same father. They go home to the same address. And the boy is completely distracted. And the girl is this pure, holy person. The reason is because boys were created nuts. And until they learn and grow and try to focus their brain. But girls were born she'asani kirtzona. You were born closer to Hashem's will. You were born in a way that the way Hashem wants a person to be, that's how a woman was created. A woman was created in the form of what Hashem wants. The purity that Hashem wants. A man has to get there. A woman is born there. A man has to climb the mountain. A woman was born on top of the mountain. A man has to earn his royalty. A woman was created with that royalty. A man has to become the person he needs to be. A girl was born that way. And therefore a man has to learn and study and learn. And every day he has to learn and keep learning. And he has a million mitzvot he has to do. He has to put on tefillin every day and put on a talet every day to hope that maybe he could get himself in a pure place. A woman doesn't have to grow. A woman doesn't have to change. A woman has one job: protect the flame. The purity you were given, protect it, watch it, maintain it, and keep it. That's your job. Because you were not given a task to climb a mountain. You were already born on top of the mountain. If you even look at the story of our avot and our imahot, when you look at the story of our avot, you see a story of a journey. Abraham, one test after another test, and changing and growing after another test, after another test, after another test. And the same Yitzchak had to Akedat Yitzchak and challenges. And Yaakov, one after another, after another, after another. When it comes to our imahot, you don't see a journey. In fact, the Torah describes Sarah Imenu at the end of her life, Kulam Shavin L'Tova. All 127 years were equally good. How could they be equally good? The answer is she protected the flame. That's what it means, Shavin L'Tova. She just protected the flame. It's why every one of our avot asked the advice of their wife. Hashem told Abraham, listen to Sarah. When it came to Rivka, she was right over Yitzchak about their children. When Yaakov Avinu wanted to make a move, he went and got the advice of Rachel and Leah. You know why? They went to Sarah, they went to Rivkah, they went to Rachel and Leah, because they were born with the purity. They don't need to earn it. They just have one job, to protect it. And there's only one way that you protect that flame. There's only one way you protect that soul. By you telling the world, what is it that defines you? Is it your external or your internal? We have one question for you. Every girl in the Jewish world, every woman, young and old, we have the same question. What defines you? Your external or your internal? When you expose the external, it means that's what you want to be you. But when you cover the external, that means what you want to be defined is not by the external. You want to be defined by the internal. It means, Hashem, I am protecting my purity. I am protecting the flame. And in essence, the whole way we know that you are about the flame is by your modesty. If you're modest, it means you cover the external and you're defined by the internal. If you're not modest, it means the internal is not so important to you. It's the external that the world needs to see. It's the external by which I want to be defined. So every Jewish girl has to ask themselves this question every single day. What defines me? Am I a pure flame, or am I something I need to show the world? Am I something holy, or am I an obstacle for the people on the streets? Is my greatest attribute, my greatest strength, my soul, or is my greatest strength what I can show? This is the question every Jewish girl needs to ask. Now, you may be on one level, you may be able to take one step, two steps. That is not what I'm not here to tell you what level you're on. I'm here to tell you where you score your points. You may be able to score 2 points tonight. You may be able to score 30 points tonight. I don't know how many points you're ready to score. Maybe you need some practice before you're ready to score. Maybe you need to try. Maybe you just need to try on Shabbat. Maybe you need to try in the winter. Maybe you just need to try when you're in shul. I don't know where you're going to try, what you're able to do. I don't know what you're capable of doing. I cannot tell you that. I'm just telling you where a lady's points are scored. A man's points are scored when he opens a Chumash, when he opens a Gemara, when he opens a Shulchan Aruch. A woman's points are scored by how modest she is. Yes, defense matters. Rebounds, dribbles, passes, they all matter. But they're not the points. The points are when you tell the world what you are defined by. If you're defined by your soul, it's already pure. If you're defined by your external, that means you're working to make that soul not as pure as it was yesterday and not as pure as it was the day before. You're working to do exactly the opposite. You're literally working to remove the holiness, remove the royalty. It's why when Esther goes into the palace of the king, the pasuk says, "Vatilbash Esther Malchut." It doesn't say she wore Vatilbash Esther Bigdei Malchut. It doesn't say she wore royal clothing. It just says she wore royalty. Because what mattered when she was going into the palace of Hashverosh, what mattered as she was giving her biggest test in her life, is not the clothing she was wearing. It was the essence that she was maintaining. And that royalty is what she was maintaining, entering into the house of the king, entering into the biggest test she'd ever be faced, entering into the test that the king in heaven gave her. What does she have to come in with? Her royalty. What is her royalty? Her flame of purity. She'asani kirsona. That's the royalty she has to maintain. It's why when we have the great-grandmother of the royal family, What we need to know about Ruth is her modesty, because that's how we know she's ready for royalty. Is she ready to be defined by what's inside, or is she still part of her old world? It's defined by what's outside. Let me conclude with two, what I think are powerful stories. One happened in days of old, and one happened recently in our community. Last week, I wasn't in town. I went away for about 2 days. Last week, I went to Morocco. And this was one of the most incredible trips I've ever taken in my life, maybe the most. It was with couples that need beracha. And they took extreme efforts to go to certain graves that are considered holy places. One of the graves that's considered one of the holiest places that every Muslim in Morocco knows about is the grave of a 17-year-old girl named Salika. What is the story of Salika? Salika lived, I believe, about 150 or more years ago, maybe 200. Salika was a beautiful girl, apparently very much so. And she one day had something went wrong in the house, and she left the house, and a neighbor saw her on the streets, and he was attracted and tempted. He was a Muslim. He wasn't Jewish. He saw her with the girls. And he said, I want to marry this girl. So he started to talk to her and started to try to do everything he can to convince her. But she would not be spoken into. And so he came up with an idea. Even though Morocco, for the most part, was friendly to the Jews, there was one law that was punishable by death. If you converted to Islam and then came back to Judaism, that was capital punishment. So he claimed that this girl had converted to Islam and now was back being a Jew, and because of that, she deserves to be punished by death. He spreads the rumor, it gets back, he sends it to the king. The king of Morocco calls in this Salika to decide if she should be killed. He sees her and instantly decides he wants to marry her. Some version of the story say his son. Some say he wants to marry her. He says, I'm marrying you. She says, no, you're not. He opens up, he shows her all of the gold, all of the silver, all of the silk, all of the fabrics, all of the royalty, all of the palaces that he has. She says, Your Highness, I want to make something very clear. I was born a Jewess, and I will die a Jewess. I was born a Jewish girl, and I will die a Jewish girl. King says, if you don't marry me and stay and convert to Islam, you will be killed. She said to him, you can do whatever you like. I am not changing. He then had her thrown into a dungeon. She said, it doesn't matter. He then had said, if you don't listen, we started to give her tremendous amount of torture. And he tortured her with whips and with every kind of torture. She says, you can do whatever you want to me, it doesn't matter. And he finally decided she's going to be executed. And before the execution could take place, she took her skirt and tied it. She tied her skirt because she was afraid that if she would be killed, somehow she would be revealed in an inappropriate way. So she tied her skirt. They put the sword to her neck. And they literally started to cut. And they said, we could heal you if you're willing to agree. She said, you could do whatever you want. I will always be a Jew. And they cut off her head. That's the story of Salika. It's not a story with a great ending. But it's a story with the power and the conviction that a Jewish girl has the ability to possess. It's considered a grave that people go to that has miracles. People have prayed by the hundreds, by the thousands, and they've seen tremendous amount of Yeshuot at this grave of Sulika. Only a girl who was willing to say, I maintain exactly my level. You could do whatever you want. You just can't extinguish my flame. And now let me give you another story, not nearly as heavy, but inspiring nonetheless. A woman called me today with this story. She says, Rabbi, she's a woman in our community, a wonderful woman, Balat Chesed, has beautiful children. I watch the children, I've taught the children, and her family has grown. And she's grown in her modesty. And she's grown in her modesty. And then one day she decided she's ready to take, which in our community has still proven to be the hardest step, is she's willing to cover her hair. And she made this decision. She went to a wig store. She tried on the wigs. She purchased the wig, and she did not tell her husband. And now she came home, and she's debating. Should she tell him? She knows it's what he wants, but should she say? Should she not? Should she say? Should she not? And finally, I believe the date was February 21st, 2025. She told her husband, I just want to show you a picture. And she showed her husband on her phone a picture of herself with a wig. And her husband began to cry. She says to him, why are you crying? He says, I'll tell you why. Because today, I agreed to sponsor and dedicate a book about modesty in your honor. And that book is this book that's outside the Power of Modesty. It's called the Dayan Family Edition. The woman I'm talking about is Mrs. Dayan. And the man I'm talking about is Mr. Dayan. Mr. Dayan that decided to dedicate a book about modesty without telling his wife. Well, on the same day, his wife decided to show him a picture of her commitment to modesty. And 1 year later to the day, her daughter met the boy that she married 2 weeks ago. And on the day of the wedding, all of a sudden they get boxes to the house. And she's like, why is Amazon sending boxes today? And all of a sudden she opens up the boxes, and on the day of the wedding, the boxes that arrived at her house were the boxes of this book about modesty. There is a power to this like nothing else. The reason is because this is what defines a woman. Now, I know it's hard. And I know there are people in this room that are saying, Rabbi, you're talking about levels that I'm not ready for. I'm not telling you what to be ready for. I can't judge your background. I can't judge your friends. I can't judge your situation. I can't judge your home. I can't judge your parents. I can't judge your tests. I am not here to tell you what level to be on. Just like I'm not here to tell a man how much Torah he should learn, but I am here to tell a man that you're defined by your scoring, and you score by how much you learn. And I'm here to tell a woman the same thing. I can't tell you what level to be on, but you are defined by this, because you are defined by how much you try and how much effort you put in to making sure that the key, the scoring that defines a woman is something you think about and care about and work on. And that is modesty. There are so many other incredible mitzvot, and they're all wonderful. Chesed is wonderful. Praying is wonderful. Midot are wonderful. Berachot are wonderful. Just like you can't be a ball player that only scores. You have to know how to do other things too. They're all very important. But you're defined by one thing. You're defined if you understand that you were created kirtzono, that you were created like Hashem's will. You were created incredibly pure. The way you're defined is if you tell the world, this is what I am. I am not my external. I am defined by my internal. The whole me. My job on this earth is to do this, and basically this one thing more than anything else. My job on this earth is simply to protect the flame. Thank you.